tuned in yesterday. Thank you for watching and donating. And thank you to all my guests. I'm happy to announce that we've already raised over $50,000 and have received a ton of, excellent feedback and support. And I think day one was a great success. So I'm going to try to just roll that into day two here. Soundring.live is where you can watch this. It's streaming everywhere. You're watching this, so you know that. But you can also donate now at the button at the bottom. A $10 charitable donation to the ACLU, the NAACP, and the Black Visions Collective, split equally, will get you into our giveaway raffle, which has over 100 really awesome prizes from all the artists and other friends and people in the music industry who were kind enough to donate. I had a bit more of an intro plan, but I actually got a call late in the game from somebody who I think is a better speaker than me, a longtime activist and a dude in a band who's been, preaching the right words since before I even, knew what punk rock was. So I want to take I'm going to pass the mic over to my man, Chris from Anti-Flag, and we're going to get started right away. Chris, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm very well. Congratulations on a great day one. Just want to echo those sentiments. Thanks to everyone who's donated so far. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be alongside so many really kind and empathetic folks. And I think that it's a testament of the punk rock and hardcore scene, and the cornerstone and predication of our ethics is on empathy. And whether or not you know this when you enter the show and you think you're just there to dance away whatever pain and struggle that you're dealing with, the songs, they all come from a place where we're thinking about more than just ourselves. And so, yeah, it's an honor to be here, and 50 grand is great. Let's beat it today.
Yeah, that's the goal. So, okay, I don't even know where to start with you. I feel like we could do this for a week with you, but I mean, you've been since 1993 a very vocal and a socially aware band who's spread a variety of messages with positive influence. I know you have a lot to say about what's going on in the world now, and you've spoke out about racial issues in America for a long time. So, I guess I would start with, it's been over 20 years of you kind of championing causes, riding waves of criticism, and you've been able to do this for so long. What have you learned? And it's a message that I want kids who are in bands today, or kids who are just fans who are watching. What have you learned, and how have you kind of sharpened your skills to deliver messages more effectively? Because I think that's an important thing right now. You're definitely an expert at it, and I'd love to hear your take on that.
Well, the first thing I'll say is, a simple soundbite for you. If you're making art that is universally loved and accepted, you're probably making pretty shitty art. So, I think that whether or not we are not being of pure enough heart with our activism, and we're getting and garnering criticism for that, or whether or not we are ruffling the feathers of folks who they are the antithesis of our messages and the agendas of the band, that's of no relevance to me. I do want to listen to people. I do want to become better. That's what this entire thing that you're doing is about. I think educating ourselves is the first step of that. But the acceptance and the understanding that a person, no matter who they are and where they come from, with a guitar in their hand or a microphone in their hand, they don't know it all. And that's why punk rock and hardcore exists, because we recognize the fact that these things are happening around us, regardless of who the quote unquote idol is irrelevant. And we just need to get out what's inside of us to the best of our ability. So I will say that if you're a new band or artist or poet or whatever, the internet makes that more complicated than ever, because you create something, you put yourself out there, and then somebody says, Donald Trump 2020 right in the comments right below it. And you're like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? I don't think the presidents save us, but because we are so hyper polarized at this moment in history, you're going to get that. So my advice is to just keep your head down, get out the thing that's inside of you to the best of your ability. And that couples into this ongoing discussion that we're having about performative allyship, goes into whether or not it is just cool to say things that are issues of the day. And my belief is, if we're riding a wave of popularity for giving a fuck about more than just ourselves, that's the wave I want to be on. B, what I've found is when we pressure people into believing the way that we do, those folks are the first to go. And so, going back to being an artist, it's your job to make the revolution irresistible to people. So put out your agenda and your message in such a way that is truthful and believable. And when people interact with it, they want more of it. And that's what keeps people involved in activism for their entire lives. And, yeah, you're right. We're old. We've been doing this a long time. We know the victories that you can gain because of this. The fact that we encounter people who come up to us and say, because of the band's message in opposition of war, I thought I had no other option than to join the military, and I chose something different. And just that simple sentiment, that interaction is enough for us to have the energy and the optimism to keep going. So I think that there is no right or wrong way to be an activist. You're seeing a lot of that messaging coming out right now, whether it's talking about, your job is a petition signer, your job is a donator, your job is et cetera, et cetera. I've never viewed activism as a competition. I will tell you that some of my best friends have come from this community, and I've never had more fun and felt more free than when being involved in the movement and taking a look around and seeing people from all walks of life who are standing up for those that are oppressed, for those that are marginalized, for those that are continually victimized and scapegoated by a society that puts profit before people. And that ties into the racism that we're fighting right now in the streets.
Sure. I mean, perfectly said, man. There's a specific song I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
And you wrote a song called Racist. And I think the sentiments in that song echo like so loud right now that I just felt like I could bring it up. There's a line in that song that says, just because you don't know you're a racist, you don't get a pass for your ignorance.
Yeah.
And it's so relevant today because everyone's having this wake up call right now. And I see all of, at least my friends and people in the music community, trying to educate themselves, realizing like, hey, I've been very ignorant to this. I mean, I think you said it's a thing. It's in the things you say and you don't say, Yeah. And I'm like, this is like, these are the exact sentiments. It's like, it's just kind of no longer for me. I'm proud of my friends in this community becoming more active, but I think everybody is realizing these words. And, at the time when you wrote that, I'm sure it was a different climate, but today that applies so well. And I think you're very well spoken in that area also, if you want to like address the message behind that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, that song's very simple. I mean, much like music is cyclical, and we've seen punk rock and hardcore come into the limelight and be topical to whether it was the anti-war movement in 2003, whether it's the late 90s and the activation of people around economic injustice that we were facing then. And when that happens, people are looking outwardly, searching for messages of hope and optimism, and that often comes from punk and hardcore. So much like that's cyclical, history is cyclical. So we wrote that song Racist, and literally the murder of Heather Heyer in Charlottesville happened 2 days before we were set to release the track. And somebody's like, whoa, how did Anti-Flag know? And I'm like, because this isn't a new thing. You know, the newest part of this is the corporate globalization movement that has led to false populists like Donald Trump in America, like the AFD in Germany, like Boris Johnson in the UK, Bolsonaro in South America. These are people that are predicating their entire existence upon speaking for the hurting working class, mostly lower white, lower middle white working class folks.
Sure, and that plays a big that plays into what we were talking about previously with like a lack of infighting in their followers also, which I think is a huge problem right now, and it presents itself very ugly on social media, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, just because this false populism is so powerful, it leads people into having discussions like, if you say Black Lives Matter, that immediately is a knock on Donald Trump, and therefore someone is going to come after you with partisan electoral politics. And what I will say to you is that presidents do not save you. They make a big difference. I believe in voting. I believe in all forms of harm reduction in our lives. We should eliminate as much evil as possible. That's why I do lesser of two evils voting. I want less evil. But that's not it. You know, that's not where it ends. So I think so to just kind of close the book on that song, the history books were there that this false populism was going to lead to racism and outward scapegoating of marginalized people. And you see it happening again right now with the rollback of transgender healthcare protections by Donald Trump because he's losing on the economy. So what's the next thing you do? First, you wave the flag, which you did the other day by going after the Colin Kaepernick and the kneelers.
Then you hold the Bible up in a photo op. Yep.
Exactly. And then number 3 is rally the base around the LGBTQ plus community and their vitriol towards them. Obviously, the Black Lives Matter movement has not been mentioned once by him. So I think that you know, it does go to show you that who the president is matters, and their words do carry weight, because it's activating white nationalists all around the world, these false populists who are propped up by the same fucking corporate globalization that we were all fighting in 1999. And people said, look at the rioters and the looters there. But it brought the goddamn cameras to Seattle and has shown a light on what the World Trade Organization was, the IMF and the World Bank. And unfortunately, those people that were in the streets fighting there have been proven very right. And
very right again. Yeah, absolutely. So we haven't spoken much about the current situation with the police in America. And I also know you're very vocal about that. I know we had talked about how this structure that exists right now is to kind of maintain a normal and keep poor people poor and keep people oppressed. And I mean, it's been echoed a few times on here, but you know, I know you have some very deep insight into that too. So, you know, please share also.
Well, I mean, look, much like the Occupy movement created a new lexicon of language for people, we learned about this idea of the 1% versus the 99%. That wasn't in our nomenclature until the Occupy movement had happened. Then subsequently, we found Bernie Sanders, who was the politician of the 99%, activated so many young people. You have 40 million people out of work right now because of COVID-19. Many of them are working class folks that were motivated and politicized by the work of Bernie Sanders. And that's why you see so many people out in the street. The new lexicon we're learning is about systemic racism. And so systemic racism deserves systemic solutions. So sure. I think that that's where our conversation should be in. And I think that there's a false equivalency between what the foundations of racism are. obviously there is this teaching of racism that happens where people are afraid and they use that fear to predicate their hatred. Um, but but the foundation of racism is economic power. It's self-interest. So when you have these discussions about the police, I think we need to be talking about the intersectionality of war, poverty, colonialism, from Ferguson to Fallujah, from St. Paul, Minneapolis to Palestine. These are our brothers and sisters who are being killed, in America. Every 40 hours, the police kill someone. And we're seeing, American military bases around the world that are predicated upon fear and colonialism and the propping up of capitalism. So, we're not going to solve this problem in the next minute and a half that I have, but
no, of course not. But I do, I appreciate your global insight. And I think you've set the stage today for everybody for a variety of issues. I just
want to say one last thing.
Sure. Go for it.
With this, especially in America, we're told that if you work real hard, if you study very hard, you can do and be whatever you want. And today, more than ever, there is a public acknowledgement to the fact that that is fucking nonsense. That is not the structure that we have in America. It is not the norm. It is the exception. Capitalism demands racism. It demands poverty. If we were at full unemployment, then the workers would have so much power. They could go to their bosses and demand X amount of dollars in raises every minute. You wouldn't need police because people wouldn't need to steal. People wouldn't need to rob. People wouldn't need to loot. You would have a predication not upon the things that you own, but the type of person that you are. And that is the society that I want to live in. So I stand in solidarity with all of those who are in the streets fighting for a better world, because a better world is possible. Might not happen in you or I's lifetime. But
it's gonna take a while, but I mean, all you can do is fight the good fight right now, man, and that's what you've been doing for your whole career. So I appreciate you as a fan of your band and message for a long time. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and I wish we need to have more conversations. I should mention that you do have a giveaway. You were kind enough to drop some cool stuff in our charity raffle. So soundring.live, you can pick up an Anti-Flag bundle with 2 t-shirts, a vinyl, and this Gunstar banner from 2009. That's a cool one. That's an old one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for
I'm going to call you just to talk about Ice-T and Body Count later, so be prepared.
Sure, I should intro you. I think you guys would have an awesome conversation. Yeah, but Chris, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on this. I'm sorry. Just so everyone knows, Chris is one of the first people who reached out to me when I announced this to say I have to get involved in this. And I missed his email and got him in last minute. So I blew it. You're always on the ball. I appreciate you, man. And thank you for being a part of this.
No, good luck. Have a great day. Stay safe, everyone.
Cool. Thanks, man. All right. That was Chris 2 from Anti-Flag. There's 2 of them. So soundring.live, enter the giveaway raffle. $10 gets you a chance to win over 100 prizes, including this awesome Anti-Flag bundle. I'll be back in 2 minutes with our next guest, Hyro the Hero.